Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 336. Welcome to the podcast. Hope you guys have had a good week. This is the day of the Alaska summit between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, finally meeting again in his second term. I guess they haven't had a face-to-face meeting since 2019. That's what I saw. I guess there was a face-to-face meeting that they had after the Helsinki meeting in 2018. Some report I saw that they met again in 2019, which I don't necessarily remember. But this is the first meeting since Trump's second administration happening now. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And I think that it all fits in with what we're talking about. The Ukraine war and what's going on in Ukraine, as I've been telling you, is that's what Russiagate and Obamagate was all about. And I'm going to continue laying that out for you. We're also talking, so Obamagate is one scandal, and the Epstein scandal is the other scandal. And these are the two scandals that I said in the last podcast that I think are going to be big stories, big scandals going into the 2026 midterms. And as I was telling you in the last podcast, scandal is how you keep people motivated to vote, keep people engaged in what's going on politically, because Americans have a short attention span. There's all kinds of other things going on in the world and in people's lives that they don't have time to pay attention to all of this. And this is an information war more than anything. And I believe that President Trump is a president that understands that more than anything, this is an information war. This is a war about information. Some information is factual information. Some information is dis and misinformation. But this is a information war. This is what the war is, and keeping people engaged in the information, keeping people, focused on these scandals is very important. That's why you don't release everything all at once. That's why as far as the Obamagate, Russiagate story, you do these declassifications. You drip it out, you don't release everything all at once. You keep the momentum growing. And, that's what I think that the Trump administration is doing, a little bit at a time. The story starts bubbling and, you get into next year and the major stuff, comes out. And this is going to be a huge scandal. This is a huge scandal. The Obamagate, Russiagate scandal is a huge, huge scandal. We're going to get more in that today. The Epstein scandal is a big scandal. And that's why I was telling you guys that I believe that Donald Trump set this whole thing up. I believe that this is what I believe now. I believe that Donald Trump set Democrats up to where they didn't care about Epstein 4 years ago. They didn't care about Epstein at all. Remember the ABC reporter who said, I had the story. I had the story for years. I had Virginia that had come out of hiding, and she had pictures of, we had Clinton, we had everybody, is what she says. And ABC shut down the story and told her nobody cares about Epstein. Nobody cared about Epstein until Trump says that you can't see the Epstein files. And then when he said you can't see the Epstein files, then everybody, all of a sudden, it's their instincts. How could Trump not play them when you can anticipate what these irrational people are going to do? These people are completely irrational. You can totally anticipate what their next move is going to be. If I do this, they're going to react this way. They have no control of themselves, other than to react this way. So if I can anticipate the way they're going to react and act because they're completely irrational, of course I can play them, and I can set up the fight with Elon Musk, and Elon Musk puts the bait out there that Trump's in the Epstein files. That's why he's not releasing them. I can leak a story to a journalist in the Wall Street Journal and tell them, well, I don't want to be on the record. I don't want to be on the record. But Trump was told that he was in the Epstein files. back in May, and that's why he's not releasing them. The Trump administration could have leaked that to the Wall Street Journal, and the Wall Street Journal just prints it. Oh, I got an unnamed source that says Trump was told he's in the file, and they're setting it up. So Trump's like, no, you can't see it. I'm not going to let you see it. And then all of a sudden, people who didn't care about it, didn't care about seeing it just a year ago, now that's all they care about. I want to take a little bit of a detour here because I want to talk about this new policy that Trump just implemented in Washington, D.C. And he has he's deployed the National Guard. He's has federal troops on the streets, and the reason that Trump can do this legally, and he's absolutely within his right legally to do this, is because of a precedent that Bill Clinton set. Bill Clinton is the one who did this first, set the precedent, and that's why Trump can do this completely legally. And you're getting a lot of pushback from Democrats. Oh, he's taking over black cities. And the crime rate's down. The crime rate's down. This is a resident. I want you to listen to what this was. This is a resident in Washington, D.C. that CNN went and interviewed. I want you to listen to what this woman says.
This is long overdue.
This is long overdue. She says this is long overdue. What Trump is doing, this is a black woman, resident there in D.C., and she says what Trump is doing by putting the National Guard on the street to stop crime in D.C. is long overdue.
I think this is long overdue. I've been one of the National Guards in this area for years. I like it. I love it.
I like it. I love it.
Longtime D.C. resident and community advocate Sandra Seegers is welcoming President Donald Trump.
I like it. I love it.
And National Guard surge in the nation's capital because of the crime she sees in her neighborhood, much of which she says goes unaddressed and causes her to live in fear.
When I wait a while, listen for sirens or more shooting or running, then I come to the door and see what's going on.
Seegers is one of two community leaders we spoke to in Southeast D.C.'s Ward 8, one of the city's areas hardest hit by crime and poverty.
So she says, I like it. I love it. This is long overdue. I like the policy. And on MSNBC, they got into a discussion about this, and they said that Democrats who are fighting Trump on this policy, they are falling into his trap, that he's setting a trap for them. Just like Epstein. I believe now that Donald Trump set a trap for them. He set a trap for them because their moves are, could you imagine playing poker with someone when you can anticipate their every move? And it's so easy because these people are completely irrational. Like the guy who threw the sandwich at the officer, got arrested, lost his job, completely uncontrollable, completely irrational, throws this sandwich at the guy, and now his life's ruined. These people, they're completely irrational. They don't make rational decisions. They're irrational. They're completely reactionary, and you can anticipate their reactions. And if you can anticipate their reactions, then you can set them up for a trap. That's what he did at Epstein. He's done it multiple times, if you think about it, set them up in a trap. And that's what he's doing with this policy in D.C. That's what they said on MSNBC. It's a trap.
And the murder rate, you can't keep saying violent crime is down, but the murder rate's up. To the average person, the murder rate's about life and death. You don't brag about a rising murder rate. And the Democrats are, I agree with you, Mika, they're falling into the trap of defending what's indefensible.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yes, it's a trap. I mean,
it's a trap. They realize that it's a trap, that he's setting that trap. Well, if you realize that Donald Trump would set a trap to get you to defend crime and these crime-riddled cities, if you think that he'd set you up for that trap, why don't you understand he'd set you up for the Epstein trap as well? And that he would tell you that you can't see the files, so you'll want to see the files, is what I'm getting at. That's what I believe happened. And again, going back to these people being completely irrational, this clip went viral. This is some new left-wing podcast. This woman, I guess she was a reality TV star on Bravo. And this rant that she gave on her podcast went viral. And she epitomizes what I see the Democratic Party as today, especially white liberal women like herself. This is the epitome. These people are insane. Listen to what this woman says.
I've had it with white people that triple trumped. Yeah. That have the nerve and the audacity to walk into a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, an Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel. And if you want to triple Trump and you want to browbeat DEI.
So my thing is, what about these Mexican restaurants that are in communities of people that triple Trump, and their entire livelihoods are based on the people who triple Trump coming into these Mexican restaurants? Does this woman care about that? Or a Chinese restaurant that's in an area that triple Trumped and their entire livelihood is based on that? Or the hairdresser who works in an area where Trump won 77 million votes. What the hell is wrong with you, lady? I mean, he won, pretty much every county in America. I don't know if it was every county, but he won the majority of the counties in America. What are you talking about? There's Mexican restaurants in those counties. There's Chinese restaurants in those counties. There's gay hairdressers. So what? You don't care about their business? I mean, this woman's rant, and she goes, I don't have time to play all of it, because she says you shouldn't be watching sports because black players are playing in sports. You don't get to enjoy sports. You don't get to enjoy NBA basketball, is what this lunatic says. An absolute lunatic. But this is what I'm talking about. If you're dealing with people like the current Democratic Party, and they are completely irrational, completely insane, and you can anticipate what their reaction is going to be to your moves, you can set them up. And the midterm elections are very, very important to not only to Democrats, but also to Trump. He understands this. That's why I think that he is setting them up for multiple traps that are going to spring next year. And Epstein just happens to be one of them. I want you to listen to Dan Goldman, Representative Dan Goldman. He's being interviewed by Jake Anderson Cooper here. Sorry. And they're talking about the Epstein files. And he's like, when we get back in session, we're going to do everything we can. We got to get these Epstein files. We got to get these Epstein files. I want you to listen to what he says here.
So he has no idea what the evidence is. He can't measure whether it's credible or not. So this is all a charade. It is a complete bogus charade designed to cover up for Donald Trump. Cover up for what? We don't know.
Cover up for what? We don't know. This is a charade to cover up for Donald Trump. Cover up for what? We don't know what they're covering up for. We don't even know what it is. But he says that we can't have it, so we want it.
Trump. Cover up for what? We don't know. That's in the Epstein files.
Yeah, cover up for what? We don't know. We don't even know what they're covering up for. But he says that we can't have them. So now we're interested in getting them. They weren't interested in getting them before Trump said you couldn't have them. Do you understand what I'm saying, folks? That he set them up. He set them up. And what is in there, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't believe there's much in there about Trump, because I think if there was a lot in there about Trump, they would have released it. I think there's a lot in there about Democrats. I think there's a lot in there about Bill Clinton. Again, going back to the ABC anchor who didn't know she was being recorded. She said, we had everything. She said, we had everything. We had Virginia. We had her coming out of hiding. She had pictures. She said, we had Clinton. She mentions Clinton's name. She didn't mention Trump's name. She mentioned, who else did she mention? Alan Dershowitz. She didn't mention Trump's name. Alan Dershowitz is a Democrat, by the way. Democrat by then. Back then, Trump was a Democrat too. So who knows? There may be something on Trump. I don't think so, but there's going to be lots of stuff on Democrats. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next year. I was telling you that the Epstein situation and the Russiagate situation, that it is the same scandal because it involves the same people. Robert Mueller just got a subpoena from the House of Representatives, the Oversight Committee, because they're doing investigations on Epstein. Larry, Curly, and Moe here were also in the Bush administration, in the intelligence community, and Bush administration also heavily involved in Russiagate. Comey got a subpoena for the Epstein investigation. So Clapper and Brennan, they realized that this is a big scandal, and they wrote an op-ed last week was printed in the New York Times, and they're trying to get ahead of this Russiagate scandal because they realize that this is getting ready to be a huge scandal. They realize that there have been that they are under investigation, which was reported first, and that there's been grand juries convened, and that the House, when they get back in session, there's going to be investigations in the House. They realize that this is a brewing scandal. These clowns, Larry, Curly, and Moe. And so this is an op-ed that Clapper and Brennan wrote together. It was in the New York Times, but it's behind the paywall. This is a syndicated version of the article. But Brennan and Clapper, let's set the record straight on Russia in 2016. And then they go in to the January 2017 IC report. And let's recap. Trump administration claims focus on intelligence committee's finding about Russian interference in 2016 U.S. presidential election, which were published in the January 2017. The assessment found that Vladimir Putin of Russia ordered a influence campaign to, and I've always told you about this whole influence campaign. What's that? Everybody is trying to influence someone. CNN, when you don't think they're trying to influence you? Yeah, I mean, yes, Russians can't influence. I mean, what the hell is this? I mean, everybody's trying to influence you. Hillary Clinton was trying to influence voters. Donald Trump's trying to influence, but they always bugged me that they called it this influence campaign. Like that's a crime to influence people. People are influencing people all the time. Israel does influence campaigns. You don't think that Israel tries to influence Americans? The Ukraine's trying to influence Americans. But the assessment found that Russian President Vladimir Putin of Russia ordered an influence campaign to undermine public's faith in U.S. democratic process and to harm the electability and potential presidency of the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. And that's disputed right there. That all this stuff is disputed. We're going to get so far into this stuff. But yeah, all this stuff is disputed now. So this is their op-ed that they just came out with last week to try to get ahead of this and say, oh, we're innocent. No, you're not innocent. You're guilty. The assessment also found that the Russians had developed a clear preference, and that's in quotes, a clear preference for Mr. Trump and aspired to help his election prospects. That's been disputed by the declassifications that Tulsi Gabbard's put out, that there was a clear preference for Trump. It further stated that the Russians employed a variety of tactics as part of this campaign, including hacking. We're going to talk about that in the next podcast as far as the hacking into email accounts of the Democratic organizations. Only CrowdStrike did the forensic investigations of these servers. Only CrowdStrike said that they had hacked. And we're going to get more into this in the next podcast about the hacking into the DNC organizations and officials and publicly releasing the stolen data through digital allies. That's WikiLeaks, that's DC Leaks, that's Guccifer 2.0. Those covert activities were complemented by the overt and disguised efforts of Russian government intelligence agencies, state-funded media, third-party intermediaries, and paid social media users. So those are the Facebook accounts and Facebook ads. We're going to talk about that. Anyway, the last paragraph of this op-ed, and I suggest you go back, go and read it again. This is a op-ed that was written by John Brennan and James Clapper just came out last week in the New York Times. They sum up this entire letter with this last paragraph, and it says the real political and calculated distortion of intelligence by administration officials, notably Mr. Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and CIA, John Ratcliffe, positions that should be apolitical. Oh, that's rich. That's rich. That they say that the DNI and the CIA, the positions that these two had, he was DNI under Obama. This is the head of CIA. So in this op-ed, the Obama's DNI and Obama's Director of Central Intelligence are criticizing Trump's Director of Central Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, and Tulsi Gabbard, criticizing them as being political. It's hilarious. That's rich. Guys, when you understand what these guys did, they acted completely political. That's why they're being investigated right now. That's why they're likely to be indicted, because they acted completely political. The real politicization and it is the calculated distortion of intelligence by administration officials, notably Mr. Trump's Director of National Intelligence and the CIA, positions that should be apolitical. We find it deeply regrettable that the administration continues to perpetuate the fictitious narrative that Russia did not interfere in the 2016 election. That's not what this is about. This isn't about if Russia interfered in the 2016 election. It's if Russia interfered the way you said that they interfered. It's if Russia did the hacking, like you said. If Russia bought the Facebook ads, like you said. No one said that Russia didn't interfere or didn't do some things, but the point is, did they do what you said they did? And what level they interfered in the 2016 election? That's the question. So, these guys are so crafty. I swear. Do not trust spies, people. Do not trust spooks. They are paid liars. That's what they do. We find it deeply regrettable that the administration continues to perpetuate the fictitious narrative that Russia did not interfere in the 2016 election. It should instead acknowledge that a foreign nation, a mortal enemy of the United States, Russia is a mortal enemy of the United States. I found this very interesting. It should instead acknowledge that a foreign nation, a mortal enemy of the United States, routinely meddles in our national elections. Well, nobody doubts that. Do we meddle in theirs? Did we meddle in the politics of Ukraine in 2014 under the Obama administration? Yes, we did. They meddle, we meddle. So that's not the question. The question is not if they meddle. It's to what level they meddle, and did they do the things that you said they did, and did they do it to help Donald Trump the way you said they did? That's the question. But mortal enemy, that it should instead acknowledge that a foreign nation, what foreign nation? Are we talking about Israel? No, we're talking about a nation that is a mortal enemy of the United States. I started thinking about this. Russia's a mortal enemy? Well, this is 2000. We're talking about 2016. Just 4 years before that, this is what your boss, Barack Obama, said about this mortal enemy in the 2012 election with Mitt Romney.
Governor Romney, I'm glad that you recognize that al-Qaeda is a threat. Because a few months ago, when you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not al-Qaeda, you said Russia. In the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back because, the Cold War's been over for 20 years.
The Cold War's been over for 20 years. Cold War's been over for 20 years, and you guys are saying this is our mortal enemy? The 1980s called. They want their foreign policy back. Remember 2009? Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, she did the Russian reset.
In anticipation of this important meeting and our time here together, I wanted to present you with a little gift which represents what President Obama and Vice President Biden and I have been saying. And that is, we want to reset our relationship.
Wow. Wow, you guys reset our relationship with our mortal enemy. Interesting. You guys remember Obama on the hot mic? He didn't think that anybody was listening to him, and he's promising our mortal enemy more flexibility after he's not accountable to voters anymore. He says that I can't do this before the election because if I do this before the election, it's going to hurt my chances at getting reelected. But after the election, when I'm not accountable to the voters anymore, then I'm able to work with you, my mortal enemy. You guys remember this?
My space, please. Yeah. After my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah, I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir.
I transfer this information to Vladimir, is what Dmitry says. I transfer this information to Vladimir. This guy thought he was on a hot mic, promising our mortal enemy more flexibility after he's not accountable to the voters anymore. Now, did you guys open up an investigation into Barack Obama for that? Was there an investigation? Did anybody look at that hot mic moment to find out, what the president of the United States was doing, promising more flexibility to our mortal enemy? I just thought that was interesting. It should instead acknowledge that the foreign nation state, a mortal enemy of the United States, routinely meddles in our national elections and will continue to do so unless we take appropriate bipartisan action to stop it. So they came out with this op-ed last week again to get ahead of this. It's not going to work because the evidence against these guys is so damning. It's so damning, and it's dripping out. It's telling you that the journalists that I respect, that I've been following for nearly a decade now, that have been on this story, that are most trusted, are Michael Schellenberger. I told you that this guy is not a right-wing guy. He's not a Trump supporter. He's never been a Republican. He was a Democrat. He left the Democratic Party like many, and now he's an independent, but this guy's a left-wing guy. He champions left-wing issues like climate change and homelessness and income inequality and all. So this guy's a lefty, and he's been on this story pointing out the falsehoods about the Russiagate narrative for nearly a decade. And he is one of the most trusted journalists that are exposing these new disclosures and what's coming out now about Russiagate. Matt Taibbi's another one. Matt Taibbi, again, left-wing guy, worked for Rolling Stone. He is not a Trump supporter. He's not a Republican. He's never been a Republican. But for nearly a decade now, he has been on the story of Russiagate, pointing out what the intelligence community did, what these clowns did, Larry, Curly, and Moe, what these clowns did. And from the left, he's been critical of his own party, of the Obama administration, of the intelligence community under Obama. And he has been at the forefront of the Russiagate disclosures and writing about Russiagate and what these guys did for nearly 10 years. Aaron Maté is another one. Aaron Maté used to work for Democracy Now! Used to be a producer and reporter for Democracy Now! He's completely left-wing. He's a liberal. He has been critical of what the intelligence community did and what they did under the Obama administration and the Russiagate narrative for nearly a decade now. And he is one of the most trusted journalists that are on this story and most knowledgeable journalists on this story. I still have so many clips from these guys that I want to play. I haven't played any clips from Aaron Maté yet, but this guy is extremely bright and extremely knowledgeable about Russiagate, and he's been critical of the Obama administration. Right here, says right here, he challenged the allegations of collusion between Russia government and the 2016 presidential campaign that extended to Russian interference and influence our outcome. He's been on this story for nearly a decade, and he's been right. And he's a great journalist, and he's from the left wing. Glenn Greenwald is another one. from the beginning, from the left. This guy's from the left. Glenn Greenwald made his name by attacking George Bush during the Bush administration and being very critical of the Iraq War and the pre-war intelligence that John Brennan and George Tenet sold us. And he was the journalist that Edward Snowden depended on when Edward Snowden released all the leaked documents that showed that the government was spying on us and violating our Fourth Amendment right to privacy. This guy's a left-wing guy, but he's been on the Russiagate story and exposing the lies of the Russiagate story for over a decade now. And I have this clip, just example of how long Glenn Greenwald from the left has been criticizing the left on this Russiagate story. I have this clip of the last appearance that he made on MSNBC. And he says that I was during the Obama administration and during, the Iraq War and exposing, all of these things that the Bush administration was doing. I was a regular guest on MSNBC, and they'd call me to give commentary. And I was, a regular contributor on MSNBC. But I'm going to show you the very last time that Glenn Greenwald was invited on MSNBC. They talk about it here on Emily Jasinski's podcast. Take a listen.
You were all over this story in 2016, and you posted this as the last time you were on MSNBC. Actually, it was 2016.
December.
And this is incredible. This clip is incredible, museum-worthy stuff, and we have it here. So I'm going to play it and then get your reaction on the other side, Glenn. This is S3.
But there is still, Glenn, of course, a spectrum that investigators, lawyers, and intelligence officials all use. And on that spectrum, the argument here is that the public accounting of the emails is known, that there was a lead up of intelligence about Russia doing this, then it was done, and then since that time there's been a wide variety of, yes, anonymous sources, but in different outlets saying that this was Russia and it had certain political goals. Would you say, though, all of that adds up to circumstantially strong evidence as a general matter?
No. What circumstantial evidence can you point to, Ari? You just identified what agents have claimed, what agencies have claimed, agencies that have a long history of error, that are designed to disseminate disinformation.
My butt, flat out lying. They have a history. These guys have a history of flat out lying to the American people. They don't have a history of error. They have a history of lying to the American people. And what Glenn Greenwald is saying is that what you just laid out were statements by these liars and say that we have to trust them. That's, again, why they made up the 17 agencies. 17 agencies lie to give it credibility because there's no evidence. He's calling them out on MSNBC 10 years ago saying, no, I don't think that that's circumstantial evidence because all of these liars, just like the 51 intelligence agents that said that Hunter Biden's laptop was disinformation. Oh, because you have so many liars telling the same lie, that gives it more credibility? No, it's still a lie. There's still no evidence, is what Glenn Greenwald says in his last appearance on MSNBC.
Sources, but in different outlets saying that this was Russia and it had certain political goals. Would you say, though, all of that adds up to circumstantially strong evidence as a general matter?
No. What circumstantial evidence can you point to, Ari? You just identified what agents have claimed, what agencies have claimed, agencies that have a long history of error, that are designed to disseminate disinformation, that are subject to groupthink, that are political actors who have constantly disseminated claims that turned out to be false for whatever their motives might be.
Absolutely.
You have taken all of those agencies and you just described in your question to me what they claim. What evidence is there, definitive, circumstantial, or otherwise, that they have presented that suggests that the Russian government is behind these leaks? There is none. What is the evidence?
Right. No, I mean, I'm asking you the question. I think the background is what they predicted and then the fact that the emails were released. But
he was asking you the question, Glenn, and there was nothing leading about the question. Of course, Ari Melber went on to totally ignore everything you just said for the better part of the last decade and cover Russiagate with a lot of the hysteria that characterized MSNBC like 24/7 for, again, the better part of a decade. So, Glenn, I have to ask, tell us a little bit about, I mean, my memory is that you were like regularly on MSNBC during Obama years in particular. Is it true that you've actually never been invited back, or you haven't been back on since that?
I used to be on all those shows frequently. Yeah. And that was the last time I had ever been asked to go on MSNBC. And I remember that interview, Emily, created a lot of anger and rage among MSNBC viewers because Russiagate was their religion.
It's their religion.
They didn't allow anyone on MSNBC to question it, to challenge it, to call it into question or dispute it.
Absolutely right.
And looking back on that, like when I actually found that, I haven't seen that in many years, I wasn't even saying anything definitive. All I was saying was like,
you can't trust the IC. Only thing you were saying is that you can't trust the IC, which, I mean, come on, folks. I mean, how many times do they have to lie to you? How many times do they have to lie to you? And so I just think that's hilarious that was his last time on MSNBC when he challenged the Russiagate narrative. And like you said, there was a lot of anger because there's a lot of anger on the left because they're the cult. They're the cult that you can't go against the grain, especially with something like this. And I'm going to get more into this. But the point I'm making with these journalists is that because and this is why I trust these journalists so much, is because they take a lot of heat from their side of the aisle for going against the orthodoxy on Russiagate. Michael Schellenberger from the left, Matt Taibbi from the left, Aaron Maté from the left, Glenn Greenwald from the left. It takes a lot of courage for them to step out against the orthodoxy there on the left because they get treated the way Glenn Greenwald was treated on MSNBC when he calls them out on their lies, and now he's not invited back anymore because you have to say what the group says. They don't have any patience for anyone saying anything other than what the group says. So that's why I think that these journalists, these left-wing journalists who have been on this Russiagate story are the most trusted because they've been telling the same story now for 10 years, calling out the left and the Obama administration and the intelligence community under the Obama administration, calling them out as liars for nearly a decade now. But there's other journalists besides these guys that I want to talk about too. One of them is John Solomon. John Solomon is not considered a left-wing journalist. He is more on the right wing. He worked for Washington Times. He's a regular contributor on Fox. He's a conservative. So, but I mean, I on people on the left don't really have as much, trust in him because he is a conservative and a Fox contributor. But I don't think that John Solomon, from my point of view, is any less knowledgeable or credible on the Russiagate story. And he's been telling the same story that these guys have been telling for nearly a decade now, pointing out all of the lies that took place with the intelligence community and what they did, how they set up Trump, all that stuff. John Solomon has been on this story. And so those 5 journalists, I actually posted, this was a post Matt Taibbi put out 2 days ago. And Matt Taibbi had posted an article from John Solomon. And the article that John Solomon wrote was an article about 302s. 302s are documents that an informant comes into the FBI. It's sworn testimony, but a whistleblower comes into the FBI and he makes a statement against some corruption, and then they write up the 302. It's sworn. So you can't just come in and lie on a 302 because it's sworn testimony, but it's basically whistleblower testimony that was just declassified. John Solomon writes the article on it, and then Matt Taibbi posted it. And then this woman, Christina, I mean, she must be a left-winger someone in the Democratic Party who follows Matt Taibbi because he's a left winger, and she comments, "John Solomon ? Bro, are you on some effing drugs? Because how dare you, Matt, post something from John Solomon? He's a conservative. He's a Fox contributor." And then Matt Taibbi reposted her comment and says, "I love when people say things like this about a story built on primary sources that are all linked into the article. Doesn't matter who's writing it, if it's John Solomon or whoever it is writing the article. The article's not about the author of the article. The article has primary sources in it that are linked in the article. You can go straight to the source and see the 302. Doesn't matter if it's John Solomon and you don't like John Solomon and you don't trust John Solomon because he's a conservative and a Fox contributor. The article's got the primary source right there in the article. Just go and look at the 302 that he's writing about. He says, okay, you don't like John Solomon. Do you think that that those are fictional FBI 302s, that he made them up? You think that the notes that he's referencing there that he got from these FBI disclosures, so you think that those are fake? That's what Matt Taibbi retweets her post and says. So underneath Matt Taibbi's post here, and I say what I've been saying, just told you on this podcast. I say that the 5 journalists that have the most knowledge and credibility on Russiagate are Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, Aaron Maté, Glenn Greenwald, and John Solomon. These are the 5 that I trust the most on Russiagate. These are the guys that have been reporting on this correctly, or as correctly as they can. I'm not saying they got it all right, but for nearly a decade now, these are the 5 journalists that I trust: Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, Aaron Maté, Glenn Greenwald, and John Solomon. And this post got a lot of response. 13 retweets, 110 people liked it. It's been saved 3 times, a lot of comments on it, and some comments recommending some other people that have been on the story. One comment that I got repeatedly of someone else that said that they say that I left out of this list is this woman, Molly Hemingway, and I got multiple replies that said, "You left out Molly Hemingway." And so I'm not as familiar with Molly Hemingway or her work, but because so many people commented that, hey, you need to put Molly Hemingway on this list, I went out and I started looking into Molly Hemingway's work, and we're going to talk about her here in a moment. But she is the editor-in-chief of The Federalist. She's another Fox contributor, and she's a conservative. So like John Solomon, she comes from the conservative angle, but she's telling the same story as these guys, as Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, Aaron Maté, Glenn Greenwald, John Solomon, conservative, and then Molly Hemingway is also a conservative. I also got one comment on this post that said, also, you have to include Dan Bongino. And I agree. Dan Bongino is absolutely, when he was doing his podcast and when I considered him a journalist, I would have absolutely put Dan Bongino on this list. I don't put Dan Bongino on this list because now he is the deputy FBI director. He's no longer a journalist. And I absolutely, if he was not deputy FBI director, I would put Dan Bongino on this list. But the knowledge about this case that Dan Bongino has, I think that makes him a very important person to be the deputy FBI director, because he would absolutely be on this list if he wasn't deputy FBI director, and someone with that much knowledge and who's been following this and understands this as well as Dan Bongino does, being deputy FBI director, I think is huge. Molly Hemingway, again, I wasn't as familiar with her work. And again, after so many people commented that I had left her off the list and she needed to be included, I started going back and looking at some of stuff that she's written and said on Russiagate, and I absolutely did leave her off the list. One of the things I like about Molly Hemingway This was a interview that Megyn Kelly was doing with John Solomon this week, and she says this about Molly Hemingway, and my ears perked up.
So just today, the New York Times' daily podcast, The Daily, took on the Russiagate, or as Molly Hemingway is calling it, Obamagate.
When I heard that, my ears perked up. Molly Hemingway calls this Obamagate. Not very many people call it Obamagate. I call it Obamagate. I've been calling it Obamagate going back to 2019, that this is Obamagate. This is a scandal of Obama. And there's, because he was chief executive, and all this that happened under Obama. And it would have been impossible for Obama not to know what was going on. And now we're getting in these new disclosures, evidence that Obama absolutely knew what was going on. And people, Obama may be protected from any criminal liability. He may have immunity. I mean, there's people making the case that he doesn't because these weren't official acts. I believe that he does. It doesn't matter. Obama's legacy, his reputation, what did Harry Reid say about him? He's clean. That whole narrative about this guy being scandal free. When this is over, this guy's name is going to be mud. It's going to be mud. I promise you, because his entire reputation and the scandal, he's going to stink of scandal after this. And he may not have any criminal liability. He may not, you may not be able to indict him or anything, but Obama is going to stink from scandal when this is over. This is absolutely Obamagate. And I love the fact that Molly Hemingway calls it Obamagate, because it is Obamagate.
Today, the New York Times' daily podcast, The Daily, took on the Russiagate, or as Molly Hemingway is calling it, Obamagate stories that have broken since Tulsi started making these releases.
No, so Molly Hemingway has not only been calling it Obamagate since Tulsi started making these releases. I went to Molly Hemingway's X page, and she's been referencing this as Obamagate going back to 2020. Like, when I started doing research on Molly Hemingway and started looking, I was like, man, I like this woman. I absolutely left her off the list. Molly Hemingway absolutely has to be on the list. This is a post that she put out in May of 2020. Obamagate, not Russiagate. Obamagate isn't a conspiracy theory. It's the biggest scandal of now, the Federalists, basically. So it's the biggest scandal of now. It is. It's a huge scandal, and she's right. It is Obamagate. All right. So this was a appearance that Matt Taibbi did on Chris Cuomo's Fredo's podcast, and I'm going to talk a lot about this appearance that Matt Taibbi did with Chris Cuomo, because this was a complete setup. Again, like I was telling you, Matt Taibbi is one of the most trusted journalists on this issue from the left wing. Chris Cuomo has been trying to pour cold water on all of the declassifications and whistleblowers, all the new information that's coming out. I honestly think Chris Cuomo is a mockingbird. I absolutely believe that he might be one of those people who is connected to the intelligence agency but works in media, because you remember what Chris Cuomo was saying. Let's remember when he was on CNN, what he was saying after the Helsinki meeting.
The world witnessed a betrayal the likes of which we've never seen. America's president sided with its enemy today. Shock has turned to a national shunning as America finds unity in President Trump's perfidy. First up tonight, we have former U.S. intelligence chief Leon Panetta on
Obama's CIA director, Leon Panetta,
betrays his own country. It was the simplest of all questions regarding Russia's attacks on our democracy. Did it happen?
So I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
That was the President of the United States' answer. A kick in the groin to his counterintelligence men and women, to his country, and most to the truth. With the world watching.
So this was Chris Cuomo back in 2018 when he was on CNN. Now he's got fired from CNN and now he's trying to recreate himself. I think he's on News Nation now. I don't know who watches that crap, but he tries to say that, I'm the middle of the road guy now, totally trying to recreate himself. But he's been trying to pour cold water on the new declassifications and disclosures on Russiagate. And everybody's been saying, you need to have Matt Taibbi on. You need to go head to head with Matt Taibbi because Matt Taibbi is one of the journalists that have been writing about this and exposing this for nearly a decade. And he's at the forefront of all these recent disclosures. So Chris Cuomo brings Matt Taibbi on so he can say that I had Matt Taibbi on, that, and me and Matt Taibbi went round and round over this. I'm going to play one clip from this interview in this podcast, but you'll see more clips from this podcast in the future because I want to break down what Chris Cuomo did. He gets off track and takes Matt Taibbi down these, rabbit holes, and he's doing it intentionally because he's trying to say, I had Matt Taibbi on and we went head to head, and it's not like I'm running from one of the journalists who are at the forefront of this expose. Honestly, Matt Taibbi didn't handle it well when this very skilled propagandist would take him down rabbit holes and stuff like that. But I want to point out what this guy was trying to do here in this podcast. But I do want to play one clip that gets to a very important point that I want to make as we close up today. And that's this question of motive. The motive, why these clowns, why these clowns here, Larry, Curly, and Mo, and others, many others, what was the motive behind Russiagate? Why did they try to set Trump up as being a Russian asset? Why did they, try to frame Russia for hacking into the DNC and the influence campaign? What was the motive behind that? They get into a discussion about that here with Chris Cuomo and Matt Taibbi. Take a listen.
I'm also not impressed by this round that it was all lies and all this for one basic reason. Man, Matty, this was a lot of work to do something as easy as cause trouble for Trump.
So this was a lot of work. He says that this was a lot of work. When you look at all of the elements that took place in Russiagate, the meeting with Alexander Downer in London, the Mif Soot and Papadopoulos, and the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, and everything that if this was all to set Trump up, this was a lot of work to set Trump up. What was the motive? What was the motive behind? This is what Chris Cuomo is saying here. That was a lot of work, a lot of people doing a lot of stuff to set Trump up. They didn't need to do that. This is what he's saying.
But I'm also not impressed by this round that it was all lies and all this for one basic reason. Man, Matty, this was a lot of work to do something as easy as cause trouble for Trump. You can cause trouble for Trump. You never needed to go beyond his casinos, and you could have had months and months of drama.
Well, but Chris, I think that's kind of looking at it from the wrong end. That was always my question about this. It's Donald Trump. Why do you need to make anything up?
Because it was bigger than Trump.
Go look.
Because it was bigger than Trump. It wasn't the motive wasn't just to set Trump up. The motive wasn't just to cause trouble for Trump in the election. If that was the only motive, then what you're saying is true. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of people involved to set Trump up. But that wasn't the motive
of drama.
Well, but Chris, I think that's kind of looking at it from the wrong end. That was always my question about this. It's Donald Trump. Why do you need to make anything up? Go look at his business history, look at Trump University, look at Trump Soho. There's a million things you could delve into if you really wanted to do oppo about Donald Trump. Why Russia specifically? Why make him out to be Austin Powers or James Bond when that's not who he is? And look, there's a suggestion in this recent stuff by Durham and also the recent declassified material from the mid-year exam.
The mid-year exam, if you don't know what the mid-year exam is, that was the name of the investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of the private server that where she deletes the 33,000 emails and destroys all the hardware while under congressional subpoena. That investigation into Hillary Clinton, that matter was called the mid-year exam.
Look, there's a suggestion in this recent stuff by Durham and also the recent declassified material from the mid-year exam investigation of Hillary Clinton's emails, which I never thought was an important story until recently.
It's very important.
That there was going to be a scandal about the fact that Russia had acquired an enormous amount of American correspondence at some point in 2015 and 2016. Somebody was going to argue that this was Hillary's fault because of her use of a private email server. And so the idea of creating a scandal linked to Donald Trump and Russia to deflect from all that, it does make a kind of sense.
That's not the answer. What Matt says here is not the answer to Chris Cuomo's question about motive. Why did they go through all of this to set Trump up? And Matt Taibbi says that the motive, the reason that they did it is because Hillary Clinton's emails were going to come out and Russia had them, and to get ahead of Hillary Clinton's scandal of these Russian these disclosures coming out about her emails and stuff, that they created this scandal between Trump and Russia. That's not the answer to motive. And Matt Taibbi doesn't get it right. Bill O'Reilly was interviewing General Flynn this week, and he asked General Flynn the same question about motive. Take a listen.
Do you believe that Brennan, in his position as head of the CIA, was trying to help Hillary Clinton here? What was his motivation?
What's the motive?
To deceive in the Russian collusion hoax. What motivated him?
Yeah, I think what motivated him, and it goes back to a whole series of presentations to Obama, because Obama is part of this, but I don't think we're going to see anything happen to Obama. But I do believe that they wanted Hillary to take the con of the United States of America post the Obama administration. And it goes back to very serious meetings, like 3 August 2016 is one of the first times when Brennan went in and briefed Obama on the dossier and let Obama know at that time that this thing was made up, essentially. It was part of the Hillary Clinton campaign to have an October surprise to say, Trump is working with Putin, right, to help defeat him. And that particular meeting, which came out in the Durham report, to me, that's one of the most egregious acts by Brennan, where he began to promulgate this thing, and he did it with the president of the United States.
But why? What's the motive?
Obama. So I think that where Brennan is at, there's going to be a series of data points and meetings and documents that are clear now, and Tulsi Gabbard's been releasing a lot of them, that are going to show a conspiracy to undermine the campaign of Donald J. Trump. And then once Trump won, then there was a series of those similar things to then undermine the duly elected president of the United States.
Well, you don't say why, but you didn't say why. So Flynn, he doesn't answer the question about motive. He doesn't answer the question about motive. Taibbi does answer it, but he gets it wrong. The question about motive. Why did they do this? What's the motive behind what they did? What's the motive? This is John Solomon again, and he's on Tudor Dixon's podcast, and he's asked about motive. Why? Why did they do this?
Obviously, it was. If you're saying this, then they wanted Hillary there. Why?
Why? What was the motive?
It's the extension of the Obama legacy.
No, that's not it.
From the 8-year and 4-year cycle to the 12-year cycle that Reagan got, which
no, that's not the answer.
Had over the course of their time. I think they didn't like Donald Trump personally.
No, that's not the answer.
They saw what happened in Brexit, and they thought Donald Trump was the U.S. exit, and they had to stop that. I mean, the Obama years are the years when the globalists begin to emerge as the dominant force in the Democratic Party. Before that, the conservatives in the Cheney era were the big U.S. police.
So John Solomon doesn't get the answer right. That's not the motive. And this question about motive is very important. Why? Why did all of these players do this in 2016 to frame Trump and Russia? It wasn't only to frame Trump. It was also to frame Russia. You know who gives you a little bit of the answer? Molly Hemingway. I want you to listen to what Molly Hemingway says here, and she gets closer to the answer than any of these guys, what the motivation was, why these guys did Russiagate, which is Obamagate.
The media have covered this war horrifically. You might remember that at the very beginning, they were claiming that Putin was a madman who was about to die within months. Do you remember that storyline that was happening early on? They were saying that it was like he was so irrational. Never have the media accurately understood the underlying issues with the war with Ukraine. I mean, this is something that goes back decades. Putin has had a long history of talking about, how this was going to happen. Trump had a very different posture toward Russia. And of course, we also had the breaking news over the last 2 weeks with all of it coming out about the Russia collusion hoax and how that was completely invented, not just by Obama's spy chiefs, but it was handled by the media to increase tensions between Russia and the United States.
That's the answer. That's the answer, folks. That's the answer. And you have to understand that it has to do with Ukraine. Ukraine is everything to this story. And if you don't understand Ukraine, you won't understand anything about why these guys did what they did. Just like Molly Hemingway said, that Trump had a different posture towards Russia. And if Trump would have come in 2017, then he was going to try to do what he's doing now and negotiate a peaceful settlement. And they did not want peace. It all had to do with Ukraine. Ukraine is it's everything in this story. You cannot understand this story unless you understand Ukraine. And that was the motivation behind what they did in 2016 in Russiagate. We're going to get more into this on Monday. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.